What is happening? Welcome to the Warrior Bod Pod. And today I am with the strength coach and owner of Look Like You Lift. He spent 9 years working with some of the greatest coaches in the industry, like Mark Ripito, Dr. Scott Stevenson, and Mike Israetel. I may have messed that up, but
you got it.
Sweet. Nonetheless, he won Utah's Strongest Man in 2017. He's lost 65 pounds in 6 months without starving himself and without useless cardio. King Yeet himself, Braydon Barrett.
Thanks for having me, man.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah.
How you been? How's life?
Oh, it's been crazy. It's been busy and crazy, but it's been good.
Beautiful. Something that I want to really, part of the show that I really want to go with is acknowledging someone and how they've actually positively impacted me, because this is very important. And like we were just talking about, when the COVID first came around, there was the first lockdowns. I did a weekly IG live. You were one of the first people I did that with. And I think it's really cool because I got to see the overall growth that you had in that time. And one thing that I think is really cool is you bring a no BS kind of forwardness with the perfect blend of tough love and compassion. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a very unique thing to bring to the table, because there's so many folks that are super hardcore gym goers, stuff like that, whereas intimidating, drill sergeant style kind of thing. And it almost seems like for some people, they're intimidated by that because they don't feel their coach can relate to what they're going through. And I think that you are the opposite of that. And you are truly a person that you are exemplify exactly what you preach. And from my knowledge, you bring the same level of achievement to your clients that you've brought to yourself. And I like the saying that your mess is your message. And I think that you're bringing that into your content, into your coaching, into the way that you have like this awesome vulnerability to you. I just feel like with only really chatting with you like this twice, there's just so much, you're just so genuine. And I think that that is so cool. And that's something I think people are drawn to you for. And
I appreciate that. Yeah. So I actually dog on a lot of the people in the fitness industry, because a lot of the so-called trainers nowadays are 18-year-old kids who have never had a job, never had a family, and yet they're telling other people that everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, no excuses. And it's like, that's not how it is. And so I feel like I bring a more realistic approach to fitness, strength training, nutrition, that no, like you have permission to feel stressed. You have permission to not have good workouts. You have permission to balance life and family with your workouts. You don't need to carry this burden of having to be a gym rat and a, wannabe bodybuilder just to try to get results. So.
And that definitely shows. I think that's absolutely amazing. So what's your origin? What's your superhero origin story? Like how did you get to this point? Like how is it that you're now helping individuals who have gone through a similar thing as you?
Yeah, man.
Inspired that.
So let's see. It all kind of started. So I was never good at sports, never played sports. I was actually quite a nerd, and I really wanted to get strong. I just wanted to be strong because I was a farm boy. And yeah, that's kind of like the making of a man, is like how strong you are. So I got into powerlifting, and then I got into strongman, fell in love with strongman. I actually was coached by some of the world's strongest men, Van Hatfield, Kevin Larson. So like some of the big names in the strength world. Martins Licis, you probably know him.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you know anything about the strongmen, you have to eat big to get big. And so I got big, and I was really, really good at strongman, and I took Utah's Strongest Man. It was a lot of fun. But with the whole eat big to get big kind of mentality, I just kept getting bigger, and I ended up getting fatter at the same time. And they got to a point where I wasn't getting any stronger, and I was just getting fatter. And it started getting more and more out of control. And I started developing pre-diabetic symptoms, high blood pressure, lethargy, brain fog, sleep apnea. So just a lot of really bad things. But look, I got to get, I got to get food in, right? I'm a strong man. I got to eat big to get big here, dude. But then, I knew things needed to change because it was starting to affect my marriage, and it was starting to affect my health. I was like, all right, I need to lose some weight here. But every strength athlete's concern when it comes to weight loss is the saying, which is quite archaic and not true at all, is mass moves mass. So a strong man and a power lifter's concern when they lose weight is they're going to lose all their hard-earned strength. And that was my concern. And sure enough, it happened every single time I would lose a little bit of weight. I'd lose a lot of strength. And so a year and a half goes by of me trying different things of, okay, how can I keep my strength, and how can I lose weight at the same? How can I get my health back in order without losing all this strength? Nothing was working. Year and a half passes by, wasted a lot of time, wasted energy. I'm just getting more and more frustrated. Finally decided to turn to some help. So this is where Dr. Scott Stevenson came in, Mike Israel. And we tried to put together a plan where I could maintain my strength while losing the weight, and also without having to use cardio, because I'm not anti-cardio by any means, but we just form follows function. So the more time that you dedicate to cardio, sacrifices have to be made in the performance aspect. So making some nutritional adjustments, making some lifestyle adjustments, I lost 65 pounds in 6 months. Lost a little bit of strength just because of leverages, because you're not as large anymore. You don't have a belly to kind of like bounce off of in the bottom of your squat. Yeah. So after I did that, I realized, you know what, like, there are a lot of men out here who want to look good, but also be strong. They want to look like they lift. And that's where Look Like You Lift came from. So now what I do is I help men around the world lose their first 30 pounds of fat and double their strength without using cardio or useless diets. So here we are.
Nice. Dude, I think that's savage.
So now we broke 88,000 followers on TikTok. Instagram is growing rapidly, and it's been a lot of fun.
What's your handles?
At Look Like You Lift.
Nice. I also love, because I remember it wasn't always Look Like You Lift, but when you switched it to that, I was like, damn, that's such a good name. Like, yeah, I thought it was super savage.
I played around with it. You try different things here and there, and I cycled through so many. See, Look Like You Lift was actually first. I started Look Like You Lift back in like 2018. And then I was using different things here and there. I think like Grizzly Strength Program was like another one, but like just nothing ever stuck, and I just hated all of them. And I finally just like went all in on Look Like You Lift, and we haven't gone back. So yeah. Good thing
for sure.
Yeah.
So you said 65 or 64 pounds in 6 months?
65 pounds in 6 months. Yep.
Damn. So for what do you think is, well, first, would you ever recommend something like that?
No.
What would you say to like a client signed up with you? What would you say to someone who's looking for like their changes in their health, wellness, and as a side effect of that into their relationships and so on? What would you recommend? Because obviously that route wasn't the best, and a majority of folks, I'm sure, wouldn't even want to try it. But what would you say to your younger self at that time, knowing what you know now?
To the younger self looking to lose the 65 pounds?
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I've never thought of that before.
Thanks.
Honestly, I would say go slower. Because it was quite aggressive. I don't have clients who do that now. In fact, I don't recommend it. But unfortunately, in the social media world, it sells. It gets people to click on your shit, which I don't like, but it's the reality of the matter. But I would say, take a little bit slower, because after the repercussions after losing that weight, I did have some like food relationship problems. We've overcome that. We're doing fine now. I'm getting ready for a bodybuilding show right now, and like, I haven't had any kinds of like food temptations at all. So we're good now. But I would definitely say to the younger self who needs to lose the weight, take it easy. Take it a little slower.
Nice. And how is it that you help like counter that? Like, because obviously all of us, we're just in a world where our environment's evolving faster than our brains, and our brains can't keep up with how fast paced everything is. So that's why we have this crazy expectation that everything is quick, because actually, a buddy of mine on Saturday, we were chatting about it, and the process of or the novelty of going to a Blockbuster and looking through all the movies, all the VHS, and then you think to yourself, like, I only have one to pick. But now we have Netflix and stuff like that, and we just have like a bajillion different things where it's just boom, right at our hands. So how do you find is the best skill to counter those urges and that desire for fast progress?
Yeah. So you brought up a really good point. So I've been studying a lot of Nietzsche lately. And if you ever read Nietzsche, he has actually a lot of really good insights to today's world, the never ending useless information. He calls it useless information. I mean, the internet is fantastic. You can search up anything in the world, but is that really helping anybody? And along with that is you do get a lot of before and afters. You get a lot of rapid looking, miraculous, magical transformations. So one of the things that I coach my guys on, and I actually talk to my social media about, is when you start, turn off social media, unfollow all of your fitness profiles, unfollow everybody who has fitness advice, because you're going to get 2 weeks into it. And the method that you're using, one of the fitness influencers is going to pop up and say, hey, that's wrong. Not going to work. So then you jump to the next thing. And then 2 weeks later, hey, that's wrong. Actually, you shouldn't be doing that. And then you find yourself, because of this, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. I mean, all decisions are bad decisions. You just need to pick the one that's the least bad. You're going to be constantly, it's better for you to stick to the bad decision and actually finish it than to hop from one bad decision to another. So I think more than anything, guys, if you can do a social media fast and get off of social media, this whole process actually becomes so much easier because you're not so mentally bogged down. Unfortunately, my entire business runs on social media. If I had a choice, I would destroy it. I would like be inexistent to the world, but I have a business to run, so I have to, but that's what I would say to people.
I actually really like that of social media detox. I'll probably steal that from you and get my clients to do it too, because that's actually, it's simple, because if it's not in front of you, you're not tempted by it, right? Out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely.
And if people are more likely to put in the effort of looking up these different accounts with all these different varying points of information, then you're just less likely. It's like you're not going to eat a bag of chips if it's not on your counter.
Well, and think of it too, like, whatever method that you're using, we'll just throw one out there. Let's say keto. Okay. Sure. You're on keto, you start keto, and then all of a sudden a fitness influencer says, hey, keto is going to destroy you. You're going to die. Like you're going to just get fat from keto. Well, of course you're going to like question your coach and be like, is this really the right thing? So, I would just pick something and just stick to it.
Yeah. That's so crazy, actually. Yeah. How do you bring a little bit of calmness? How do you calm that urge in your clients? Do you just tell them to like chillax? It's not a big deal.
Calm their urges.
So, let's say, how do you bring them a sense of like, okay, this guy, I can trust this guy. I can continue this process. Like, so if they come to you and they're like, dude, I heard about this keto thing and I don't know, there's pretty good results and we're not really doing keto, but they're getting insane results. How do you talk with them for that, like, that internal dialogue where they're like, shit, is my coach actually doing the thing that's going to get me the results because that person got those results? Does that make sense? Sorry.
That's that does make sense. Cool. Honestly, for me, it's easy because everything that I teach, I've done the evidence on it. So I'm a very scientific person. My background is in biochem, and you learn with the scientific method that if you really want to prove your method, you should go out and try to disprove the method. And if you have a hard time disproving the method, trying to find the studies that disprove it, if you're having a hard time doing that, then it's a good chance that you're on the right track. The problem today, however, is people have their cognitive bias, and so they go find the studies or the research that proves it to be true, not the other way around. So I've already done the research. I already know what works, and I already teach what works. So when someone comes to me, like no client is going to come to me, no follower is going to come to me and tell me something that I don't already know. And I can and I already know the answer to that. I can already tell them that, like, look, you have a good point here, but this and this and this and this and this. So it's easy for me because I've already done the work. I've already done the research.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, that's actually good. Nice. That's pretty sweet. So what do you think? I had a lot more questions than I thought, but what do you think is the someone that's falling off repeatedly over and over and over again? Do you think, because I really believe that, and something I really emphasize with my clients is I take and this is something I really admire about your social media as well, and especially when you were sharing your experience through philosophy and theology and other ologies, whichever one, a plethora of them.
There's a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. And something I really like is that you have a component of philosophy in, like, that you also talk about. And how has that really impacted your coaching? Because a lot of folks are just talking about, like, the health and the fitness, nutrition, and then they talk about mindset, but they don't really talk about the utility behind, like, what skills can we acquire to have the tools in our toolbox to be able to counter the circumstances of life. So people are like, yeah, it has to be mindset. And then no one really talks about, like, oh, well, what do you mean by that? So how is, take away on that one. That's a lot, actually.
Mindset is really easy to coach because I can sell you a bunch of bullshit and it's mindset, so you believe it. There are a lot of motivational speakers out there who've done jack shit with their life, but they can coach it because it sounds good. I can say some pretty words to you and you'll take it and you won't do anything with it. So there is a philosophical aspect to my coaching, but that's because I believe that what I'm really doing is just creating better men. That's what I'm really doing. And the training and the nutrition is simply just the heuristic to becoming a better man. It's through the strength training. It is through the refining powers of voluntary hardship. We can talk about that later, that you become a more powerful, more useful human being. So that's the philosophical aspect. And if you find a lot of people who, as they kind of go along this, then I, just subliminally teach them to question everything that they hear, to not believe everything they see, to ask their own difficult questions. They come to these kind of conclusions on their own, and they become more independent. And that, honestly, that means I did my job at the end of the day. So,
yeah, I like that, because I take a very similar approach. Like having a triangle, like a pillars. I like to have a component where it's a philosophy, then a little psychology, and then a foundation of just overall physical activity and health and wellness kind of thing. Right. And the mastering the mind, and not like so that you don't fill in the blank with whatever, like, you don't feel sad, you don't feel motivated, you don't feel happy. It's like not depending. I like to tell my clients that we cannot depend on emotions because they're flaky. If you had a friend that was flaky, would you trust them? The answer is usually no. So we can't trust a short-term emotion for a long-term outcome or a long-term goal. And that I like to say that it's cool to have a goal, but at the same time, we got to focus on the habits of today and being the person it takes to get there. And we get what we want as a side effect of being that person. And
we talk about that a lot too. So a lot of people have an outcome-based goal. So they focus on the outcomes that they want. The outcome is I want to squat 400 pounds. The outcome is I want to lose 50 pounds. But just like you said, we need to focus on the person who has the identity of these outcomes. And that's when you start having more permanent transformations. That's when you have more lifelong transformations as well, because you became a different person in the process.
Yeah, that's freaking sweet. Yeah. That's absolutely why I wanted to chat with you too, because I knew you had a little philosophy in you. And I was like, oh, this is good. Who's, just for my own, like, selfish curiosity, who's some of your biggest, I guess not like just like Stoic philosophy or any philosophy, or actually any philosophy specifically. Do you have like a top 2, top 3, or a number 1 kind of philosophical influence that has inspired the way that you coach? or even go through life. I suppose that'd be a good one too.
Yeah. So I would say that the coaching probably doesn't have that much of my own personal views probably doesn't take that much of it doesn't have that much of an influence on my actual coaching. I guess the only kind of philosophical influence of my coaching is really like, let's think a little more analytically. Okay. Let's take a look at the data and make our decisions based off of the data, not emotions. Personally speaking, what has influenced my own spirituality and like the way that I want to live my life, the kind of the big one for me was Nietzsche, which
amazing mustache.
Yeah, fantastic. Nowadays, he's very seen as like the kind of like the anti. He's very like he's seen like as like a proto-Nazi influence on Hitler and Nazi, but like that's a different story. But I argue that Nietzsche is probably the greatest thinker and philosopher of the last 200 years we've ever had, and probably ever will have. Whether you agree with his views or not, he at least challenges you to think in a different way. And it was really hard for me to read him at first because he is quite radical, but it got me to think differently and actually challenge a lot of the thoughts that I had at the time. And now I'm in kind of a much different position than I was before, because of, I still don't agree with a lot of things that Nietzsche says, but even Nietzsche says, don't believe everything that I say. Like, don't agree with everything. If you do, you miss the point. So that's why I think he is quite difficult to read sometimes though. But he was probably one that's a little more modern, a little bit easier maybe to digest. But again, a very radical figure nowadays. I don't understand why he's so radical, is Jordan Peterson. So he wrote 12 Rules for Life and Beyond Order. I think it's a great place for you to start. If you really want to learn how to change your life, I think it's a great place to start.
I enjoyed 12 Rules.
It's a great book. Fantastic book. Again, getting you to think in a different way about your life. Whether you agree with it or not, it gets you to think differently. And that's really what I'm looking for when I'm trying to find someone to learn from. Is I actually try to find the people I don't agree with and try to learn more from them, because you never know, you might find something. So
I really like that. There's a thing that I think really helped impact me when it came to just learning just in general, is taking away my own biases and my own judgments, and trying to look at an individual, whether I respect them or not, and try to take some knowledge bombs out of there and just look at what they're saying objectively, despite how I feel about the person, respect or no respect, trust or no trust, or no trust. I believe that you can still learn something from someone despite how you may feel about them. And I think having that open-mindedness can also really foster maybe even different ways of thinking, and then also different ways of creating, or different ways of just overall just seeing different perspectives, and really bringing in something that's a little like just enough difference, but you're just like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way. I like that aha moment.
Yeah, they're fun.
Right?
They're fun.
Nice. So what do you think is the biggest struggle with, other than social media? I'm just going to put that one there. But what do you think?
So biggest struggles in forms of what? So
the biggest struggles for folks really making progress or making changes. They've been trying for months, years, so on and so forth. But what do you think is a lot of the struggles that you've seen or experienced? And what do you think are some of the ways that you have overcome it? And then how do you think, kind of like, obviously it's going to be dependent and specific per individual, but kind of like a generalized piece of advice that you think would be able to carry over to a majority of folks?
There's a recurring pattern with everybody that I've worked with over the years that have failed before, and it's they do too much too fast. So they try to work out 6 days a week. They try to they remove all of the foods out of the pantry, and they just go on salads and chicken breast. And how long can you realistically sustain that? You really think you're going to last longer than 2 weeks if you do that? Even right now, it's really popular. The program called 75 Hard. Yeah. The success rate of that program is fucking abysmal, because it has like 20 different things you have to do at one time. You're taking somebody who's never done any of these things before, who's never worked out a day in their life, and now all of a sudden they have to work out twice a day? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? So of course it has a terrible success rate. And that's not, from the science, we already know that's not how lifelong habits are formed. Lifelong habits are formed when you do one small, almost insignificant thing at a time. And that's how habits are formed. Think about where you are right now. Okay. Whether you like it or not, you have habits formed. Productive or unproductive, that doesn't matter. They are formed because they were small, convenient, you weren't thinking about it, and it led you to this point. So naturally, if you want to form new habits, we have to kind of take that same approach of small, easy to digest, convenient, small little improvements, little dopamine boosts here and there. That's how you form a positive habit. Positive habits don't form from doing 20 things at once and completely throwing your lifestyle out of whack. It never works. Look at the history of everybody. Look at everybody who goes through a New Year's transformation, right? It never works, right? So that's probably the biggest thing. It's the difference between a permanent successful transformation and people who burn out, is find one thing that you can do, one thing that you can improve. But I can't sell you that. I can't sell a program off of like a 1% improvement. And that's why nobody's talking about it. I can sell 1 million books if it's called 75 Hard, 75 days, do 20 fucking things. I'll sell 1 million copies, no problem. But I can't sell you a book on, hey, what's the one small, insignificant little thing that you can do? And a year later, you're a completely different person. That'll never sell.
Yeah, no, definitely not. That's like the most unattractive sentence. There's probably people that are listening to this and they're like, yeah, I'm out. I wanted some quick fixes and stuff like that. And it's just not, it's so lame. It's lame.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works.
I had a client once and it was going into New Year's and there's the New Year's rush. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about on the treadmill while they were doing a warm up, and it was packed. It was packed there. And it was mostly when in doubt, folks go to cardio because the machines are there. There's a whole bunch of them and low risk of anything other than maybe falling off the treadmill and turning into a fail army video. But outside of that, one of my clients actually said, like, I was like, holy smokes, it's awesome that it's busy. And then the client said, yeah, it's all right. Like, it's kind of busy, but it's okay. It'll be gone in a month.
So she already knows.
And I thought about it. I was thinking about it. I'm like, the thing that sucks is that she's right. And that's like brutal, just seeing like a bunch of people coming in and they're going guns a-blazing, and they want to, they obviously have that like fire. They're in a place that they don't want to be. And it's at the point where they actually want to make that changes, but they don't have that guidance. Right. And obviously you've had coaches, I have coaches. And so we see the value of investing in ourselves. So what advice would you say for someone who is unsure where to start, but is unsure whether a coach is a good investment for them or not? How would you bring peace to their mind?
That's a good question, because for a lot of people, I don't think a coach is a good investment at their time in their life. And that's coming from someone who literally makes his living off of selling coaching, right? I think what every person needs to do first is not necessarily look for the hows. Okay, look for the method, look for the diet, look for the workout, buy the DVDs, or follow the fitness influencer. I think what they really need to do is find the why. Why do you want to lose the 50 pounds? Why is it so important that you reverse your type 2 diabetes? Why is it so important that you get your blood pressure down? Why does that fucking matter? And that's a genuine question. Like, I mean, for most people, it's like, well, that's a no-brainer. I don't want to have high blood pressure, but why? Why does it matter? I mean, we all die at the end of it. We ashes to ashes. So what are you doing this for? And then once you find the why, ask it again. So you want to reverse your type 2 diabetes because you don't want to have your legs chopped off so you can continue hiking? Why? Oh, because your dad never took you hiking, and you want to be there for your kids. There you go.
There's like I forget what it's called, but it's like where you go through the layers of why or something like that. I forget how it goes, but you just keep on going. At least usually the 5 whys. I think that's what it is actually. So it's the 5 whys where we usually figure out the baseline common denominator truth, where it's like, oh, that's the why. That's the actual reason. Right?
Yeah. And again, so just like with what I do, the fitness and nutrition is just the heuristic to becoming a better person. The 50 pounds is just the manifestation of something much greater. Okay. If you just focus on the 50 pounds, you'll never hit it. Right. But if you focus on what comes along with the 50 pounds, you remember that, and you truly understand that, life gets much better. Right. And your likelihood of success skyrockets. So
damn, that's a good one. This is a fun convo. I knew I was going to have fun with this one. Fantastic. So when do you think it's, because I'm someone that likes to reaffirm my own why. So when I'm going through, I try to go through it on a day-to-day basis, just because I'm just always looking at it. So I always need reminders of it. Do you think setting up reminders or just kind of reflecting on a regular basis is what really helps with that consistency? Because the way I really like what the old turtle says in Kung Fu Panda, where anxiety is living in the future, depression's living in the past, but to live in today is a gift. And that's why it's known as the present. And today's the only day that we really got, because yesterday it's done, it's gone. And tomorrow, there's no promise that we'll ever be there. So do you think really dialing in like the day-to-day, how would you go about that? How do you think it really helps when folks are just dialed in today, or just focusing on the habits? What are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
I think it's a fantastic question. So we do actually focus on that. One of the things that we do when a client first comes on is we figure out their new identity. Okay. So yeah, I just got off the phone with somebody who he's 350 pounds. He wants to get down to 200. Would you agree? We'll use John as example, like for his
perfect
proxy name. So would you agree that the 350 pound John is going to be a completely different person than the 200 pound John?
Yes.
Yeah. Completely different person, to completely different skill set. So what we need to do is sit down. It's going to take a few minutes of meditation on his part, but he's going to have to sit down and say, okay, who's the 200 pound John who has all day energy, who doesn't have these health issues, who can run around with his kids. His kids are out of breath before he's out of breath. What is this John doing? What are his habits? What's his routine? What's his lifestyle? Like, what is this John doing? And once we get clear of who this future identity is, this entire process becomes a freaking no-brainer, because now we know who we're trying to become. He's already embodied this new, improved 200 pound John. So he's now every single morning going to look at that list of what is this John doing? What is this future John doing? And he's going to envision this future John. And it's just 5 minutes every morning. And that sets him subliminally through the rest of his day to get his stuff done. And then what I would encourage after that, because again, 1% improvements, not all at once, but once he has that down, 5 minutes at night, did I embody that 200 pound John? Did I do the things that future John would be doing? And honestly, that's been the biggest thing. Like again, training, nutrition really doesn't matter, but if they can just do those things, everything else falls in place. So that's been the biggest thing.
Nice. Yeah, I go about a very similar kind of idea with that, because it just makes it so that we can actually visually see it. We can actually feel it when we're talking ourselves through like what that person looks like, what the best version of ourselves looks like. We do have like the physiological response as if we are already there. And so in that moment, we're like, oh my gosh, we just got a taste of the best version of myself. And I think that's something that like sitting in our own thoughts, I think that's really important, so that we can actually we can get rid of the distractions, get rid of the noise, and get rid of like our coach's voices. Like if a client wants to be like, Kyle, I just need you to shut the fuck up for a little bit. I just need to think, because I really want to dial in this why. I want to figure out who I am and who I want to be.
Yeah. And they should.
And I think it's so cool. Then I really don't mind if my clients tell me to fuck off. So
then they have a good reason to.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh man. So, we're at cool. So, where is it that you think where do you think the fitness industry is going? Where do you think, or at least where is it that you want to go? Actually, that's a better question. Where is it that you want your contribution to health and wellness to individuals, and where do you want to go with what you're doing?
We're really laying it out on the line here, man.
Yeah, sorry about that. I do that.
No, for all honesty, I mean, in all honesty, I don't want to be in the fitness industry for the rest of my life. That's not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I simply just found something that has worked to improve other men's lives, and we're working with it. But honestly, what I want my contribution to be to this world is to create more men that think and act like the great thinkers of Rome. I want to create more Marcus Aureliuses. I want more Epictetuses. I want more Senecas. And I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I think I found something pretty damn close, but that's what I want to do. So whatever, wherever you lie politically or socially, whatever, but I think we can all agree that the world is in pretty rough shape right now. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that we can do as a society or as a country or as politicians or whatever that's going to change that. But the change starts here. Mm-hmm. And so if I can get one person to do that in this life, he'll carry that on to his kids. Their kids will carry it on to their kids. So that's why I'm here.
Nice. I really like that, because I share a very similar, where it's just like there's the uncontrollable factors, but at least I can, because I want to do the same thing where people are able to become leaders of fill in the blank. And it could be just something simple like they're actually taking charge of their own lives, but they're also through their actions positively impacting the others. So you know how we talk about like generational wealth, for example? I tell my clients that are dads, well, dude, you're actually taking the steps to change your family's generational health. Mm-hmm. And so by them being able to be the person it takes, because kids are going to be taught or they're going to be shown. Mm-hmm. And so whether we know it or not, kids are going to be looking up to the parents as their role models, whether it's good or bad, because as kids, we don't know the difference. And when we're able to like positively impact that conscious thinking, that conscious thought, that being in that moment and thinking, I personally go around thinking that someone is objectively looking at me. And I think to myself, like, if that person's seen what I was doing, what would their thoughts be? So I try to look at it like something simple, like when you take a can off the sidewalk and put it into a garbage. It's something simple, but when you see that, you're like, that's cool. That's just neat. It's nothing profound. It's nothing crazy, but it's something that is a component of the character that we are creating to be able to, not just by active leadership, but by subliminal leadership, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing too. Like, I heard this from somebody, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So wipe the piss off the toilet seat. So he said, if you're not wiping the piss off the toilet seat, your marriage is probably failing. You're probably fat. You probably have a drinking problem. You're probably not doing everything to the best of your ability at work. So start with wiping the piss off your seat. And I love that, because that's so true. If you can't even commit to like the small insignificant thing, do the big things. So
yeah, I like that. I'm totally gonna steal it. I'm putting it in my back pocket. That's so funny. Wipe the piss off your seat, motherfuckers. Shit. I really like that. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're 45 minutes in, and I think that's pretty solid length of time. Is there anything like that I didn't think of that you want to like talk about or want to bring up, or anything that you want to hit on?
Dude, I'm all yours, man. I'm just here to answer your questions. So
Sweet. Well, let's see. So what do you think? What do you think? We'll go with something that's actually tactical. That's something simple. What do you think is something that someone could implement today that is not just within the mind, but like something that's a controllable external kind of thing, like a skill or something like drinking more water?
tactical, applicable advice.
Yes, that's the
10-minute walk after every single meal.
Nice.
So there are so many health benefits that come from the 10-minute walks post meal that you can't afford to not take them. Okay. So we're talking reduced blood pressure. It's been shown to be twice as effective as metformin. I've had 2 guys so far reverse their type 2 diabetes just from these 10-minute walks. Increased metabolic rate, increased energy. If you're feeling tired after your lunch, don't go get a coffee. Don't take a nap. Go for a 10-minute walk. So honestly, like out of anything, like I take those 10-minute walks more seriously than my guys getting their training sessions in. So if you can just do that, life gets a lot better.
Walks are like the best thing on the planet. Honestly, I completely agree with that. And I don't usually get my clients to do 10 minutes after whenever they eat, which clearly I should definitely implement, but I definitely make it so that there is when they do get their walks in, I say 20 to 30 minutes, but I always get them to do it so that they're engaged in the walk and they don't have their phones with them.
Yes.
So that way they have to sit with their thoughts and actually process things, because with so many distractions and things getting our attention, it's really hard to actually process things because of the distractions. And so then those shitty things kind of build up. And then we don't resolve it. We just aggravate it.
Right. Yep. I have to take, that's the only thing that's keeping me sane right now. Cause this is the busiest I've ever been in my entire life. This is the most stressed out I've ever been in my entire life. And so these 10-minute post-meal walks are the only thing keeping me sane. So like, yes, everybody needs them. You're not too busy to have these. If you are, reevaluate your life, rethink your life a little bit, and make time for these 10-minute walks. So yeah.
Nice. I really dig that. Sweet. Well, brother, I got nothing else, but what are your handles again for the folks that are listening?
@look like you lift. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. There's no periods, no exclamation marks, no nothing like that.
Now,
go ahead.
No, I just said, yeah, it was green.
Fair enough. And what platforms? Just everywhere?
I'm everywhere, man. TikTok, I post on TikTok 4 times a day. Instagram, I think I'm maybe on there twice a day. So those are like the most popular ones. Facebook is dead to me, so Facebook's stupid. So those are going to be the best places to find my stuff.
Sweet. And other than that, any last words, anything that you want to share with anyone? Any points of wisdom?
No, man. No, thanks for having me on.
Sweet. I appreciate you coming on. It was obvious. It was a fantastic conversation. I'm just super happy to have you here, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure.
Cool, man. Well, I'm going to end this little broadcast here. And for those of you listening, if you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to this. And as always, I hope your day treats you as good as you look.
I like that.